Hey everyone, it's Colleen with Artwork by Colleen. I'm kind of on a roll doing all these flowers lately. We're going to do kind of a little bit more complicated viola / pansy cane. I decided that it would look really pretty in this flower compilation that I'm doing. So we're going to need some really dark red. We're going to need some kind of medium red. It's a little bit on the darker side of red. And then we're going to need some yellow. And we're also going to need a lighter red. I'm just going to do the lighter red to go around the edge of the petals. So as you can see here, I took that darker red and I decided to add some glitter to it. That red clay right there already had some glitter in it, so I wasn't too concerned about that. I went ahead and made a Skinner blend from dark to light. We're currently working on one petal at a time. And the current petal that we're working on is going to be the one at the top that doesn't really have any yellow showing. I'm just doing the fold right now, the accordion fold of it. Now that the accordion fold is done, I'm going to go ahead and shape it into somewhat of a petal that we're going to need. If you look at the picture, you can see that it's really just a thin part of the darker color showing. And the lighter color is more like fanned out. So in order to get that, what I did was cut the petal in half and then pushed it together. So that kind of gives you the exact shape of what I was looking for, which I'm pretty excited about that. Next, I'm going to do the red and white together. Now, I know it sounds really weird because I want to make the red lighter, but since it was such an orangey red, I was worried that it wasn't going to come out right. So I decided to add a little bit of black to it to actually deepen the hue of the red, but then in turn lighten up the entire color of it. I decided to add just a little more red to that color and of course some glitter to sparkle it up some. Now I'm only going to use about half of it. It's pretty close to the original red that I have over there that I used for the medium shade of red, but I'm going to go ahead and take this one piece and I'm going to lighten it up with some white. And you can see this red goes everywhere all over your fingers. Now I've got a lighter shade of pink. I'm a little happier with that. And we're going to use that to cover the edges of the petals. So I rolled it out to the thinnest and put it on the edge of the petals. And there we go. We have my first completed petal. And I'm really pretty happy with that one. The next one we're going to do is those two bottom pieces that have the dark, the majority, and then it has the yellow, and then it has the medium red. What I'm doing here is taking the yellow pieces that I had combined. I have two different shades of yellow, so I want to put it all together into one big piece, but I'm not going to need that much piece for the whole project, so I'm going to be able to cut a piece of it off. But before that, I'm taking the translucent and I'm adding it to the red. There's a couple of reasons for doing that. One, it keeps the red from spreading so much on everything else because it bleeds a lot. Two, it makes it a little more pliable because it's some kind of funky clay. And three, it actually helps give me a little bit more red so that it extends the use of your clay more. Not extends it more, but it gives you literally more clay because you're mixing it with another one, so you have more to work with. Next, we're going to work on those bottom two petals that kind of come together. They look kind of like one petal, but it's actually two. This way I have the dark color. I stacked it up into 4 rectangles. Then I cut the yellow up, but I wanted the yellow thicker on one side than the other, kind of keeping in line with the picture, trying to keep it, I don't know, the same. I was thought anyway. So that's why I stacked it the way that I did. So it has more on one side than the other. And then I'm just going to take the light or, regular color red and stack it a couple of times. And then I'm going to come here and push the stack together and take the blade, and you want to use not the sharp side, but the other side, so you can literally push one of the clay colors into the other. So what we're trying to do is give it a jagged kind of look, the way the flower actually does. And you want to do this a couple times. The one thing you just want to make sure is that you have the blades going in the same direction every time. You don't want to cross cut them because then that'll really mess it up. So I'm just continuing to go along here. Let me just say this really quick. I made a big mistake, I think, because I just used the dark clay and the light clay, or the regular color red clay. What I should have done in hindsight was I should have made canes with both of these. Not canes, I'm sorry. But I should have made Skinner blends with both of them so that they had more depth to them. It still came out okay, but I think it would have been a lot better that way. Now I'm just forming them into the two different petals, and I'm going to go ahead and cover those. That's going to be kind of the bottom pieces there, and I'm going to go ahead and cover them with the light pink so that we have those two pieces done. And here I am covering it with the light pink. The light pink is going to be rolled out to its thinnest one. I don't want it to go all the way around because I want it to kind of look like it's meeting in the middle a little bit, just like it does in the picture. So I'm just kind of adding some pieces onto it because I don't think that pink's going to be quite long enough. And pieces parts work because once you smush it all together, you really will never know that you had all those pieces parts. Except for you can see when I pick it up here, one of the pieces kind of falls off. But it's all good because we can just push it back together and make it look all nice and roll it into place. There you go. Now there's the bottom half. So what we have left to do is going to be do the two kind of middle petal pieces. Again, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have the dark, you're going to stack the light, and then you're going to stack the red. And this time I decided to do more red because I felt like there was more red on the side pieces. The first ones there was more dark color. So anyway, again, we're doing it the same way. You're going to take the not sharp side, just pushing them back together. You can see I was going to change it a little bit and add a little more yellow, but instead I decided to cut off a little bit of the red because I thought it was a little bit too much. But anyway, back to pushing. You don't want to go all the way through either. You just want to push it part of the way so that you just get the jagged edges going through the yellow, but not preferably into the next color. And I'm just making a few more cuts to give it a good look. Then I'm going to flip it over and do the exact same thing on the other side because I want the jagged edges to work in both directions. I don't want it to just go one way because if you look on the petals, they actually do bleed into each other. So as I was doing this, I realized that I was only going to have enough of this one to make one petal and not two like I had hoped because obviously I didn't guesstimate how much clay I was going to use. So that being said, that's fine because I can just make it with one. And I did the pink, light pink covering on it. I'm going to tentatively kind of put it in place where it should be. And then now I know that I have to make one more. I mean, it really came out pretty. But like I said, I think if I had to do it again, I would have done Skinner blends on both the red and the dark just to give it a little more depth. Now I'm doing the middle real quick. All I did was take a little thin piece of green, wrap it with a little white, and then wrap it with a little yellow. Kind of from a distance, that's what that picture looks like. If you get really up close, probably it's not exactly like that. I made a little bit more of the darker color, just took some more of the black and mixed it with the red that I already had. Again, one more time, we're just going to stack it. And I think I stacked that one with 3 yellow pieces. And then I stacked the red as well because I wanted to get it done. So I think I did 4 pieces there. Just going to make the block a little bit. Push together. All those extra pieces you see don't really matter. And then once again, we're going to be cutting it, pushing it back together, rolling it if you need to get it back in shape. I kind of like the way that cutter kind of just gives it a little bit different jagged edge. It's not necessary. If you don't have one of those, don't worry about it. You can buy them. They have Sculpey products like that, but it's not really necessary. The blades will work just fine. If you don't have the back of your blade, you can try using a credit card and just stick it in there with that. That should also work as well. So now I'm getting it to where I'm just about happy with it. I flipped it over, so I've done both sides of it. I cut off the edges so that you could see what it looked like. And I'm going to give it, now I'm flipping it over to the other side. Just giving it, smushing it up really well. And I think it's going to need me to cut off that little end so that you get an idea. There you go. And that's where you can see what it looks like. I think it looks really good. I mean, flowers are not all the same. And I think having 2 different petals with a little bit different size is also perfectly fine because, again, with flowers, they're never all really exactly the same. And so here you end up with the pansy. And I think it's really cute. And as a final closing note, that's what the pansy/viola looks like. I think I'm pretty pleased with the way it came out. I decided that since it's so big, I was going to cut it in half and then reduce half of it. So that's what I went ahead and did, so that I could have a couple of different sizes. Plus, I kind of like that one. I wanted to keep it for me for a little bit. And finally, if you guys could subscribe to my channel, if you haven't already done so, I'd truly appreciate